Is it better now?
Yeah, better.
Okay.
I think we're live on YouTube. Yeah, so
Okay.
I think we're good.
Okay, we're good. Okay. All right. Good evening, everyone. My name is Martins Ajakaye, and today we'll be continuing the Global Internship Insight series organized by African Students Network. And with me here today is James Olayinka from African Students Network. And we'll be having three amazing personalities with us. We'll be having Oluwa Damilola Kuyi, Abigail Ogusi, and Ifedayo Valentine. For Abigail and Ifedayo, they recently just completed the software engineering internship at Bank of America, and Damilola is currently an intern at Bloomberg, London. So yes, today we'll be trying to learn from them, their experience, more especially about how they were able to secure roles at these global firms as students from Nigeria. Would also be we hope to learn a lot from them about their experiences and offer insights as the series is Global Internship Insight series. Extract as much insight for those of us that are seeking to get opportunities like this. And before I go ahead, I would like James to do a bit introduction about the African Student Network, the vision of the African Student Network, and what the African Student Network is really about.
Yeah, thank you very much, Martins, and super excited to be here. And also, kind of like, thank you for doing this with us. And yesterday, I was basically just sharing like a snippet of what we do at African Student Network, and it's really about like empowering African students to be the best version of themselves, basically. And how we seek to do this is basically by leveraging three pillars, which are the career development pillar, the entrepreneurship pillar or startup building pillar, and the leadership pillar. And we have series of programs that we do in order to kind of like achieve this. Which one of them is the African Student Accelerator Program, where we get students across the continent. This year we got about 50 students ranging from Namibia, Ghana, Kenya on the program in order for us to kind of like take them through series of career development and transition programs from experts and industry professionals, and kind of like guiding them on that in order for them to kind of like be individuals who can contribute to the footprint of growth and input into their world and any corporate space they find themselves, basically. So that's like basically what we do. And we have like also the monthly industry insight series, the startup foundry, and we are looking to probably like taking this experience and localizing it on different student campuses, central to kind of like having hubs where students can access career booths and leadership outlets, and kind of like startup building incubators can take place in those hubs, basically on different campuses across the continent, basically. So that's like the big picture for us. And we are just like trying to do this from the little resource that we have in order to make this impact. So last year we had the first edition of the Global Internship Insights series, where we had people from JP Morgan talk about product. We have a couple of interns from Bank of America, ranging from investment banking, technology, which is software engineering, operations, and a couple of other tracks. But it was basically like one call, and it was like 2-3 hours, and we just like dived into it, and that was it. But this year we decided to make it a little bit granular in order for people to actually just x-ray the different paths that they have and see if it's something that they are willing to kind of like explore, or something that interests them overall, basically. So we're bringing these guys from these firms that have been beneficiaries of this opportunity, just to show us that it is possible to do this from any university that you are, and from any point that you are, irrespective of the experiences, irrespective of your locality. It is possible to actually like get this global organization on your resume and intern with them to make a valuable impact. So I want us to basically be like a sponge to kind of like absorb everything that the speakers, the panelists have to say so that we can maximize their time and get the best value for everything they are willing to share with us. So thank you very much, Martins, and yeah, over to you.
Yes, thank you for that very, very descriptive um, description of what African Students Network is doing. And personally, I'm proud of what African Student Network is doing. We've heard success stories of people that have gone through the accelerator program, the amount of impacts they've been able to make. Like yesterday, you were speaking about people that went through the accelerator program, being able to support startups and those kind of things. But yeah, from a non-member, right? The way I see it is the African Student Network is essentially they are transforming they're transforming the narrative of the African students. We want to ensure that African students across board they get access to better opportunities. They are not disadvantaged because they come from Africa. So yes, thank you very much for that. Yeah. And yeah, we will just proceed into the session for today. So for those that are just joining again, this is the second 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 part of the Global Internship series for this year, organized by the African Students Network. And today we'll be focusing on technology track. Again, we'll be having Oluwadamilola Kui, Abigail, and Ifedayo speak to us about their experiences today. And it will be also important that we also, myself and James, do a bit of introduction about ourselves. So I'll ask James to go first. James, can we get to know you and your role within African Student Network?
Okay, so my name is James, and I am the founder of African Student Network, and I also work on the strategy team of African Student Network. Outside of that, I work with Bank of America in the market division. I do like big data there, big data engineering basically. And yeah, in my free time, I was sharing yesterday, I love to play table tennis. Currently planning to like take on long tennis, and kind of like fascinated about reading books, talking about like apologetic stuffs, and yeah, kind of like discussing some global economic issue and sharing my thoughts on diversified interest points. So that's pretty much like a snippet about me. Yeah.
Okay, and since James has done the introduction, I'll do mine. My name is Martin Sajakai. I just graduated from the University of Lagos, studied economics, and currently I do data at Bloomberg London. And yeah, that's a bit about me outside of work. I also enjoy reading, and my reading is not restrictive to inspirational books. I enjoy stories across board. Currently, I'm reading a lot of classics, 18th century, 19th century classics, just to learn more about the world through the lens of stories, and not necessarily, just inspirational books, just learning from as much stories that people tell, French, African, Nigerian specific, just broadening my knowledge about the world through stories. So yeah, that's about me. And yeah, we'll be going into the session proper. So I would like our guests for today to also do a bit of introduction about themselves. I don't want us to just talk about, you see, the part we'll be bringing it is we speak a bit about ourselves, what we do, but we also share exciting thing about ourselves. I know some exciting thing about Kuye, for example, but I'll leave him to give us all the details. So we are going to start with you, Kuye. Can we get to know you?
Can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
All right, good evening, everyone. My name is Damila Kuye, and I'm a computer engineering student from Unilag, 400 level. I'm currently doing my series, as we know, it's in Bloomberg, for about 7 months. So I'm still doing it currently. So that's about my work. And outside of work, like Martin said, I don't really have a lot of fun things, honestly, but I love playing musical instruments. I think that's what takes my time outside of my work. So does that work, Martin?
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
All right, thank you.
That's fine. Thank you. And we'll be going over to Abigail. Abigail, can we get to know you?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, yes, I can.
Yes, so I'm Abigail and I'm in my final year studying computer science in HSC. And yeah, as you already know, I interned at Bank of America as a software engineer. Yeah, I'm interested in coding, building applications, and alongside, I'm also interested in football.
Now, what team
Thank
do you
you.
support?
Arsenal.
Do you play
We
football?
will reserve our comments because this call is recorded. But yeah,
Yeah,
Ifedayo, can we get to know you? Or Valentine? I know you as Valentine.
Yeah, hello everyone. Good
Yeah.
evening. I'm Valentine Ifedayo.
If you
So
can turn on your camera, we'd really appreciate it.
yeah, I have issues with that, but in the course of that, I should be able to turn it on.
Okay, good.
Yeah, so for me, I would say I'm still a student of the Department of Civil Engineering because I have an exchange program to still do this September, from September to around February. So that's the last part of what I have to do with respect to my undergrad. Um, Outside that, I recently interned with Bank of America, and I also have a number of experience with some other fintech organizations prior to my internship. Outside work and all of that, I like spending time with friends, like with James and the other guys, just teasing them, discussing the world and all of that. So yeah, I play video games too once in a while. So yeah, that's what I do.
What's your favorite video game?
FIFA.
All right, we'll take this offline. But yeah, let's get back to. All right, yes, thank you very much for joining us today to share your stories. But before we go, I just want to mention that we are also streaming live at YouTube. So Google Meet might not be able to contain everybody. I see that the numbers are going to increase. So Google Meet is capped at the first 100 people to join. So if you have friends, your foes that you think they might benefit from this program, share with them, share the link with them, ensure that you invite them so that they can benefit from this. But also, I also like to mention that for African Student Network, we would appreciate if you can follow us across our social media, LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, follow African Student Network. We're going to share the links in the chat box to just ensure that you follow us and stay in touch. Also, turn on your notifications for our post on YouTube for our upcoming sessions. The idea of it is that it's an insight series. So it doesn't necessarily mean you are fixated on what exactly you want to do, but you want to, as much as possible, learn from these different perspective. If is you might decide that, oh, I want to do tech, but what if tech is not the best thing that you are interested in, right? So the idea is that you learn from these stories and then you cannot make the decision of which areas you might be interested in. So yes, now back to the session proper. The very first question I'd like to ask is I would like a descriptive, albeit a pragmatic one of the process from doing the application, submitting the application, up to getting the final offer. How did you move from clicking the link, going to that website, till the final offer? So in steps, so I moved from step A to step B to step C to step D. So I would like Abigail to go first on this one.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so the first step was obviously clicking the link, and I got to know about Bank of America because they came to Ghana to do an insight event, and they also came to my school. So yeah, so after that, I just applied, uh, selected the location that I wanted, and then submitted the CV, wrote the essay, and that was it. After like 2 weeks or 3 weeks, I got invited to the assessment center, and So after preparations, I had the interview, and the interview was in 3 stages. So the first stage, for me, you have to present a coursework that you are interested in, that you think is very useful. So you present that, then they ask you questions. And the second stage was the competency stage, where they ask you why Bank of America, why do you want to be a software engineer, those kind of questions. And the last stage was the technical stage, where they ask you about programming concepts. So you have to choose the programming language that you are comfortable with, and then they ask you a series of questions. It's more like a conversation. Yeah, they'll make sure you're not nervous or anything. So that was it. And after that, I heard from them after, like, they told me 1 week, but then I heard from them, I think 2 weeks later, 2 to 3 weeks later. Yeah. When you're successful, you get a call, and then they tell you that you've gotten your offer. They'll tell you everything you need to know. And yeah, that was it.
Great, thank you very much for that. And we'll touch base on that as the session unfolds. But now bring it back to Damilola. Can you walk us through what the process was like for you?
Okay. For me, yeah, the process was a bit tricky because I first of all applied to Bloomberg in 2022 for summer internship, and I went through 4 rounds, didn't get it, and applied again for placement in, yeah, that was last year. So I'll just give an overview of the rounds. So we have 5 rounds of interview for Bloomberg, whether summer internship or placement, which is serious for Nigeria, or full-time role like new grad. So these three have the same process. And the first 2 interview rounds is technical rounds. So for some of us that are here, you might understand what data structures and algorithms and lead code and whatnot. So the first 2 rounds you will go through, you would have to solve a typical lead code question, right? Apart from just solving and writing the code, you'd have to walk the interviewer through your solution, explain your thought process, give answers to follow-up questions. Yeah, all this happen live in the same interview. So if you pass the first one, all good. You go to the second one and literally do the same thing again. You'll be given the question, this code question. You walk them through your solution, then solve it. Then if there are things to improve on, you improve on them during interview. So if that goes well, yeah, very good, that's progress. Then you go to the third stage, this is system design stage. And typically this one is not like the last 2 stages, because this one you'll be given a typical real life problem that you would face like day to day working as a software engineer in the company. So you could be given a question like, if we want to design a system that would allow our clients get data in real time, how would we do that? So a question like that can pop up, and it would be that short, but then you'll be required to make clarifications, ask follow-up questions, understand the requirements from the question so that you don't have false assumptions. So if you do all that, you do some high level. I can't go into details of that around during this call because that will take time. So if all that goes well, you'll go to the next round, which is an HR round. So the HR round is very, very important. And I didn't know that in 2022. And that was probably the reason why I did not get the offer for summer internship that year, because I did not too well, but I did averagely well in the first 3 rounds. Then when I got to the HR round, I don't think I did too well. And that is because for Bloomberg specifically, I don't know about other companies, they are very, very heavy on HR. So no matter how good you are technically, they must see like pro interests on why you want to come to the company, and like actual specific, not generic, not the one like, oh, I like solving problems, or I want to solve real life problems that people say. So things like that even pull them off. So for them, you must be very specific with why you're joining the company, why you're joining engineering, what you see about engineering, how does that connect with your passion and everything. So they are very heavy on that round. So that's like 30 minutes round, pretty much. And the round will also walk through your experiences, ask you questions around them. And the idea of these questions is that they've seen you demonstrate technical skills in the first 3 interviews, but they need to know about your soft skills, collaboration, your teamwork, And beyond just listing them in your CV that, oh, teamwork or collaboration, that's not enough. So they would ask you several questions based on your experience to pick out these qualities from you through your responses, not through you saying, oh, I'm good at teamwork. So they will try and deduce your soft skills from your responses, which is very important to note. So if all that goes well and they are fine with you, you go to the final round, fifth round, which is with an engineering manager, usually a senior manager in the company. And this one is pretty much chilled. I would say if you pass the first 4 rounds and you get to this round, well, you can just start thanking God already. I mean, you should just be a little chilled because this one is just more like discussion. Just, not vibing, but like the manager would walk through your resume also, like the HR, but would focus more on technical aspect of what you did. Okay, for example, let's say you have a role that you use AWS. They would ask you, okay, why did you use AWS for this? What were the alternatives? So they would ask you more like questions. How did you handle feedbacks from your team? Did you collaborate? Did you do it alone? What did you learn from the experience? Or could you have done better technical wise? So that kind of questions will come up in that one number final round interview. And if you pass that round, yeah, you pretty much done and you get the offer. But then I must say that with Bloomberg, it's tricky because even if you pass the first 3 rounds and you don't do too well in the HR round, that can lead to rejection. So you have to be prepared to, do very, very well at every single round. But for me, I did 3 rounds in one day. I skipped the particular round because I applied previously. So I did the 2 technical rounds plus the system design round in a single day. Then I did that plus the HR round, so in the same day. And the final one, like the following week, they got the offer that same week. So that's pretty much it. I hope I didn't take too much time.
No. Actually, I just need to mention that the idea is that we want to get as much information as possible.
Oh, okay.
So we are not allowing you. We don't want you to just give us top level.
Tip of the iceberg.
We don't worry. We'll come back to those stages.
Okay.
So you give us the breakdown because we want it to be as detailed as possible. We want people to
Yeah.
go on YouTube and get this video, and someone that is preparing for the interview can say, okay, fine, these are the stages, these are the things I need to do. So in each stage, they'll be like, okay, fine, these are the things I need to prepare on. So we'll definitely come back to that. So now move over to the Fed dial. So what was the process like for you? I mean, I guess it might be similar to Abigail's own, but
Yeah.
we should definitely hear from you.
All right. Yeah. So the process is quite similar to what Abigail did. So the first thing for me after learning that the application was out, because I did apply the previous year, was first working on my CV, having to rework my CV, ensure it's up to date, everything, and my latest work experience, my new volunteering stuffs, everything. I just had to rework my CV and ensure my CV was in tune. The next thing was preparing my essay. So both always have this essay stuff you have to write. So for last year, it was the role of technology in Bank of America. So I think it should not be more than 200 words. So for that essay, I just had to do research about the bank, what they do, what the technology division is. Spoke to a couple of my friends that have interned with the bank, Rashid, James, Rachel, a number of them. Just spoke to a number of people to have proper understanding on what the bank does, so I can properly draft that essay to suit the question, to answer the question they're asking properly. So that was the next thing I did. Then I submitted my application. After submitting my application, the next stage was the IRV interview. So IRV is a pre-recorded video interview where you are asked, I think it was 5 questions that day. So what they do is they've recorded those questions before you start the interview. You're given is it 30 seconds to think before you answer. So I was asked around 5 questions. If I can remember, one of them was tell us about yourself, why you're fit for this role. So you should have an idea of your pitch, just be able to sell yourself, tell them who you are, what you do. You can even add your hobbies, chilled stuff, like just like let's just tell them about yourself, who you are. The next thing was, I think, an experience working with a team and how I was able to achieve the desired results. So before now, I'd learned about STAR approach. So STAR approach means situational, the task, the analysis, and the results. So when you want to answer some of these questions, it is best you, like, if you have a situation that describe that particular question, it is best you present the situation, the task you were given, the analysis, which is what you did, and the results that was achieved. So that was how I was able to like answer questions like tell us about an experience working with a team and how you achieved the desired results. Another of the questions they asked me, if I can remember, is one thing you've achieved that that you are proud of. So you need to be real. It can be academical, it can be academic, it can be anything, just like what you're proud of. It doesn't have to be like related to like technology and all of that. So that was the third question I was asked. So Bofa is also keen on self-improvement, self-development. So a common question they normally ask, even I think across all other divisions too, is if it's for me now, it was technology, is evolving. What have you been doing to improve yourself? So they want to know what you've learned. Like, how is this person working on himself? What have you been doing to like make yourself still very good? What are you doing to sharpen your skills and all of that? And the last thing they asked, I think, was we're being truthful and honest speed. So they want to know, I think at that higher viewpoint, so they wanted to know your ethics and all of that. So after the higher view, the next stage for BOFA is your the assessment center. So similar to what Abigail mentioned, the assessment center contains 3 interviews. So the first 3 interviews, the HR is going to like bring everyone into a room, just like do a quick introduction of what you guys are there to do before you now go and there are different, they've allocated times for your specific interview. One of the interview you do is a presentation. So you would have been informed prior to the interview that, okay, tell us about something you did in school recently, a project you did in school recently, and make a presentation around that. So I did that. I prepared a presentation slide. James assisted with that. Rashid also went through it. So it's just good that as you're doing these things, have people who like check what you're doing, who can review whatever you're doing. So in every application, you'll be making this particular for the next summer, just like give it to people who have experience in that regard. So like they reviewed the presentation and all of that. So things that are not necessary, they'll tell you that, okay, why not just take this away and explain with your mouth. It's a presentation, so you want to be able to like explain properly what you're trying to pass across. So the next part of the interview was behavioral, more of a situational judgment. So they'll tell you to talk about yourself again. I mean, you are talking to people directly now, it's not pre-recorded. The first one, the presentation, people were in the call, I think Joanne and someone else. So you're talking to people directly, you are discussing directly, it's not pre-recorded. They'll ask you so many situational judgment questions. You have this issue, your manager is not around, all of those questions to just see your leadership skills and all of the different characters they want in someone who is going to do an internship with them. And the last one was a technical interview. So for me, unluckily for me, I wasn't like interviewed in my preferred language. So ideally for both, you should, in your technical interview, they would most likely interview you in the language you prefer. But for me, that the lady that was interviewing me was not big on JavaScript, so I had to do my interview in Python. Yes, so it was firstly explaining some concepts. Then with time, she projected some questions for me. I mean, different people, different interviewers. Not everybody had the same interviewer. So Abigail's technical might be quite different from mine. So mine, I had to like she presented some questions for me and all of that. Asked me this. So that was just an overview of how the whole stuff is. So if you're successful after the final round, then you get a call from the HR that you've gotten an offer to intern with the bank for the next summer. Yes, so that's an overview of how the whole application process was for me.
Thank you very much for that. Thank you very much. I'll pass over now to James if you have any questions before I proceed.
Yeah, so I hear like a lot of technical interviews, basically, like presenting of coding questions, DSA, like data structures and algorithm. And that's like everybody wants to jump on that because a couple of people have practiced lead code for almost all their lives and they're ready to get this done, right? So I want to just go back to like the foundational stuff, right? Because before you get to that point where they actually send you lead code, there's a perception that they have about you that gets you into that particular point. Can you guys just give us like a walkthrough of what your resume looked like or what your cover letter looks like when you submitted? So it's like, oh, like, was it like 15 pages resume? Did you have like a stellar experience that helped you kind of like have a leverage ahead of the pool of applicants? What was your resume like? What was the structure of your resume? What are some tips that you think made your resume stand out to the point that you got called for the subsequent processes in the process, basically? Probably we can go with Dami. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a very good question because I think I forgot to mention it that it's only if you get an interview that you practice, you show your lead code skills. If you don't get interview, you'll not be able to like show that you good with lead code and everything. So in terms of CV, now, frankly speaking, I don't think my CV is extremely, shiny and all of that. But I would just say that for my CV, I had decent experience, like 2, 3 experiences, like 2 freelance, I think 1 freelance and not 2 freelance experience and 1 actual like startup that I worked with. And then I had a project section and certification section. And I think that was pretty much it for the CV. But like for my CV, I just try to like be very, very specific about the things I did in each role. So, and I try not to be ambiguous about those things because one of the mistakes we make in CV sometimes is we put the shiny stuff. So we try and elaborate more on the technicality of what you did. But the truth is the people that check your CV first are the recruiters and they have little or no knowledge about Python, JavaScript, React, and other stuff. They don't really know them. So most of the time, they usually after what was the result of the thing you did. So if you say you built this, what did you do? What problem did you solve? So if you cannot provide those details, most likely you will think your resume is good, but you would not see like a callback or something. So summary is just for your experience, make them very specific, the things you did, and be very, very emphasize on what problem you solved through the things you did. What did you increase? What did you optimize? By what percentage? Yeah, metrics is something that's very, very important too. You don't just say, oh, you solved this problem. That's so vague. So you solve a problem. How did you solve it? By how much did you solve it? You understand? So things like that. And then my project section, I would just say that apart from experience, have a project at least. It's okay to have a project because they know your students. Sometimes something they gave me as a feedback in my interview after I got the offer. That even though I got the offer already, they gave me a feedback that I emphasized too much on my experience, and they also wanted to know how much of work I did in school, like school project and everything, because they know I'm a student. So I have 1 or 2. I will say one, even if it's one project you have that is completed and it's actually good, you can have that in your CV too. And I must quickly say this: a lot of times I've noticed that people are hesitant to apply to these companies because they think that you need to have like 5 years of experience or something. Personally speaking, I barely have 2 years experience because I took tech serious after like a long break. I took tech serious back 2 years ago. So I'm not 3 years of experience. And if my experience wise is maybe 1 year plus or roughly. So people that I've seen lately, they're actually scared that, oh, they have to, bombard everything. The truth is they know you're students. They are not expecting you to have worked full time 5 times as a student. That's not possible, honestly. Except for in Nigeria, it's possible because you can juggle school and everything. In the UK, in some of the schools, you not have the chance to juggle with your academic and work, so they don't expect too much. I'm not saying you should submit an empty resume, of course, but like don't let your little experience make you like not apply. Still apply. What's the worst that would happen? They won't get back. You already applied, and you can always apply again. But to not apply at all because you think you don't have good experience or something, it's not good. So whatever you have on your resume now, polish it, make it very descriptive, make it very impactful, show the result of what you did, highlight your skills, make them very clear. And to what James said, 15 pages now, they prefer you work with 1 page resume. So even if you have 100 experience, if you've been coding since you are 5 or 6 years, it's very fine. but well, they want one. I'm not saying they want 1 page. At least from what I've heard from them, through some calls, they prefer a single page resume. But if you would have 2 pages, it should be very important that you cannot remove it. So I think that's what I was saying in terms of CV. And then apart from CV, of course, cover letter and application, they say, yeah, just write what you do, your passion, your course you study, and why you want to join why you like the company, and why you want to join the department engineering in this context. So yeah, I think that's all I can say.
Thank you very much, Dami. Yes, I intentionally put up the list of 15 pages because you see people that are in 200 level have like 5 page resume, and yeah, like what is happening? You understand what I'm saying? So most of these firms just want 1 page resume, and what I hear from Dami is like put in the metrics. The people that are going to, and it's very inspiring for me to hear this. I never thought of it from that perspective, even though I know that you should use metrics. Is like the HR are not technical people, and these are the first people that are going to see your resume. So it makes sense for us to actually put it as like metrics in there, use the numbers, optimization, and those keywords to kind of like sell yourself with your resume, basically, and also kind of like put in project. You're a technical person, you might not have the big experience. I think I heard Dami was saying that he's a freelancer and he just has like freelancing opportunity and one cost startup stuff. So don't be scared, put in projects, put in volunteering experiences, and let's just hear from Valentine also and Abigail, then I'll hand it over to Martins. Val.
All right, yeah. So for me, the first thing I would say for your CV is don't try to like use some of these platforms that you won't be able to download the CV and you then have to take a screenshot of the CV. Most times that CV might not be extractable. So like no HR will have the time to like review everything manually. Most times they extract the keywords from the CV, like your education section. So you can have a very good CV, and if they are not able to extract the education part from your CV, they're not able to extract the working experience and all of that. To be very honest, you'll be doing yourself a good disservice. So the first thing is like create time, spend time. If it's just on Google Doc, your CV does not necessarily have to be like fine. It's not for aesthetics. It's just to like show who you are and what you've done. So what I always say is that like spend time typing your CV yourself if you have the time. If you can pay for some of these applications that design CV for people, it's great too. But like make sure your CV, you can check on some platforms sometimes if your CV is extractable. So just try it out and see if when you upload it on some of those platforms, if you can get your educational part, if you can get your working experience, your leadership awards. So some of those things. So after that, like Kuye Damilola mentioned, it's very important that you use metrics. So in my CV now, every place I worked, I actually like added the metrics that like, okay, if you're improving delivery time by how many percent, maybe by 30%. So there is the part of like letting them know, don't just say optimizing and all of that. Just ensure that like you are giving them stats like, okay, I did this. I ensure that like I tested every code I was writing to ensure that there is no doubt, like you don't have any breaks on site, especially if you're using something like JavaScript now, not TypeScript that is strictly typed. If you're using JavaScript for an application, it is advised that you like write tests for this thing to ensure that everything is actually in sync. So on your CV, be ensure that like you add things that don't make it too wordy too. Yes, you have a lot of things to put, but at the same time, make sure they are broken down into sections. If you can use a bullet point, use a bullet point to like just describe everything you've done. Say for a particular organization, describe everything, break it down, discuss the tools you use, why you, if you don't have so much time to explain why you're actually using those tools, but like ensure you just pass that communication on. This is how this works. This is how this works. I contributed to this by doing this and this with this, and it gave this result. So that's how I have my CV. So on your CV, most times is you should also have things like your awards, leadership, if you have leadership organization, if you've done any leadership stuff, include it. If you have any award, include it, just to show them that, like, outside of even including academic stuff, just include everything to show the things you do outside of academics, and the things your academic excellence to is also adding. So I have things like Dean's Honors Award. I just added all of those things. I mean, I'm a student, so I want to also sell myself. So you should have things like that on your CV. Also, your skills. Don't cook any skills you don't actually have on your CV. So, like, write the things you actually know how to use. If since it's a technology CV, write the languages you know how to program in. Don't like write languages you do not know how to program in. Write the things you do, because these people actually check the CV. I mean, my manager at some point was like, "Yeah, we've seen your CV," when we are having some discussions, and we know you are very, very technical, because sometimes some people ask you things like, "Oh, yeah, from a civil engineering background, how does it relate?" and all of that. And my manager would be like, "Oh, don't worry about that. Just tell them about the technical part of what you're doing." So anything you are submitting, if you eventually get in, they take note of all of these things. So your manager, whosoever you're going to be reporting to, has seen your CV. There's an expectation, even if it's an internship, there's an expectation from you. So whatsoever you're putting on your CV, ensure you're capable of whatsoever you're putting on that CV. So lastly, include things that, like, they can contact you with. You see some CVs, it doesn't have things like phone number, your mail. So, like, have those things on your CV. These are common stuff that should be on your CV. Also, if it's a software engineering, you can also add your GitHub account, so, like, they can check some of the things you've done. I don't think anyone does that, but you can just add it. You can just have it as a link at the top of your CV too. So for a good CV, I think just do some of those stuff. There's no actually templates for these things. Sometimes you see some CVs and you'll be like, wow, this person got this. So yeah, just ensure you do the basic things correctly. That's what I'll just say.
Hey, thank you. That was a lot. Yeah, but let's go to Abigail. So I'll just do a recap and hand it over to Martins.
Oh, hi. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, Abigail.
Okay, so actually, during my internship, I was also curious about what in my CV made me qualify for the assessment center. So I spoke to one of the recruiters. I asked her what they actually look out for in a resume. And she said normally she spends just like a minute on resumes, and she just looks at as a student, she looks at your awards, your educational background. Are you still in school? Are you not in school? Then, since it's a technical role, they check the project that you worked on, show you the school project that you worked on. You honestly don't have to have work experience. And from that, so after the education, then the project that you've worked on, or if you've done any internship, you can add it. Also, they also look at volunteering a lot. So if, let's say, as a volunteer, you were in a club where you were teaching people technical skills, so that also really helps for the volunteer part, because it gives the idea that you like to give back to the community, and every company likes to do that. Yeah. So so that's for the CV bit. As Valentine said, it's very important to do the basic things right. Like there's no point in complicating your words on your CV so that nobody really understands, just sounds so sophisticated. It's just good to add your metrics where it's very important, or where it's applicable. Because as Valentine said again, they actually check your CV a lot after you get in. They know what your CV, like, they know what's on your CV. Your manager goes to your CV because he like, based on that, he's able to know, okay, I need this person in my team. So you need to also add the technical skills that you have. So as a software engineer, you can add if you can code in Python, Java. But one thing that I also found out later was that it's not necessary to put like skills like good communicator, or effective time management, or attention to detail. Those things are supposed to be implicitly said in your CV. If you pay attention to detail, it should show through how you have organize your CV, the structure of it, the fonts, everything should be consistent. You don't have to tell them you can pay attention to detail and all these things. So, saying that she was looking at some CVs and people write attention to detail and they'll make a spelling mistake. So it's like, who are you trying to be? So you just have to be yourself and be real with your CV. And also, I think the questions that they ask, the business application questions, are also very important. One trick I use is that if I'm applying to any company, I always go and search for their annual report, especially for the bank. And then based on the annual report, you can see exactly what the company does, because that's what they want the public to know. So that goes beyond just looking at the website and, like that's just generic stuff. But if you look at the annual report, you'll be able to see exactly how much they give out to community and all those kind of things. And it just makes your application stand out. So for me, that's what I use. Just a summary, looking at the company annual reports, also the website to get just some key things inside. And also if the company has done some technology that is like worldwide, for example, like Bank of America really prides in the use of Erica. So if you're writing your essay, you can add all these things, then it makes you stand out because it makes you know that, okay, you have actually done your research and you're actually ready to join them if you have to be successful. I think that's it for me.
Yeah, thank you so much, Abigail. I think that was really exhaustive around kind of like going beyond what a natural person would get online, probably going through their annual reports, looking for their philanthropic activity and using that to craft your cover letters and your essay. And I think you also touched on kind of like looking at their engagement central to like, oh, probably like they did something, they pride themselves in particular thing, like their technology. You want to talk about that. I think one of the common lines is, oh, Bank of America invest over 4 billion on an annual basis into technology, or probably more than that, and all those kind of stuff. You want those things that an average person wouldn't probably be able to find online to show in your resume. And I think she also talked about like volunteering, basic things like that. And don't mention that you're an effective communicator on your resume. If your resume cannot effectively communicate you and you're putting it on your resume that you're an effective communicator, that's like, if you can't pay attention to details on your resume and we can't see how aligned it is, one date is dancing to this side, another date is dancing to this other side, then the attention to details is not there. So show it rather than saying that you're an effective communicator, attention to details, and a couple of other stuffs like that. And I think Valentine also mentioned kind of like you actually kind of like structuring it and paying attention to the simple thing. One thing that was consistent from what Valentine said was that you are a student. Nobody is expecting like big experience, or you haven't heard any of them told you they worked in Google before they could get this experience. To be fair, they have beautiful experiences, but like you are a student, they want to see a couple of the projects you've done and all those kind of things, and you just want to be able to tell your story in a systematic way on your one-page resume in order to sell yourself and bring your image to the front there. So I'll just hand over to Martins for the subsequent question and just stay in the background basically.
Great. Thank you very much for that. So one thing I just also want to mention is that, Abigail, you're the second person now. Well, yesterday we had someone speak also about annual reports. So if you've been following the Insight series, you know now that as a compulsory thing for any application you are doing, you need the annual report to get as much information as possible. And also tying it back to what we had yesterday is the fact that you need to go the extra mile and do the deep work. Right? Don't just say, right, like Abigail has mentioned, don't say you're an effective communicator if your CV does not communicate. I think that's a very, very powerful one. So yes, this is the part where we spill the tea. We want to get as much information as possible, right? So I'll be starting with Kuye this time. What were some of the questions you got at each stage of the interview process? And on a more overview style, how do you suggest that they approach it? So for the technicals, I'm not going to ask you to start saying, oh, this is this. But if you have some ideas on a general level on how to approach this question, we would appreciate it. So for each stage, what were some of the common questions, as much as possible that you can remember? What were some of the common questions you got, and how best do you approach it? Please, the floor is yours. Don't withhold details. You're muted.
Sorry. So I was saying that because I applied, in two different seasons, I will probably stick on the last application and give an overview of that. So, like I mentioned earlier, you get to walk through 5 rounds, and the first 2 rounds is the same kind of system, technical round. And essentially, what they are trying to say from the interview is that you can efficiently solve a data structures and algorithm question.
Medium,
Uh,
hard.
let's say medium. I don't think Bloomberg does not really. They don't ask hard questions. I mean, if you get hard questions, then or more, I don't know. But typically, you get a medium question. But why I don't want to go into like medium or hard or easy is that you can even get easy. Honestly, the emphasis is not about the level of the question, and it's not about the question itself. It's about how you can solve the question, and not just solve the question, how you can communicate the problem solution to the interviewer. And why they do this is that typically in your day-to-day, you would never have to do DSA. I mean, almost everybody knows this by now that you would not do DSA. Then why are they asking you in the interview? They are not stupid to ask you in the interview. So they are trying to pick out qualities from you. Number one is problem solving, right? Number two is communication. And another one I would say is taking feedbacks. So you'll be given the typical problem. I would say that for Bloomberg specific, there's a cheat code. I have to whisper it or something. Well, yeah, there's a cheat code for Bloomberg, and the cheat code is not something that is proprietary. I won't be saying it to you as proprietary, but the cheat code is that they repeat questions. And I can see that luckily for me, from my 2022 to 2023 interviews, all the elite code questions, I have seen them before. All the questions they asked me, I had seen them one way or the other before. So
now this is where I will interject you, because elite code is a universe on its own.
Yeah, honestly.
Yes, it's a universe on its own.
Yes.
So is there maybe a elite code? I'm not trying to be reductive, right? Definitely, even if someone gives you a cheat code, it doesn't necessarily mean everything is going to come out from there.
Yeah, definitely.
If people give you a list of questions, it doesn't mean that you just focus on that. But think about it, is a number, is a game's number. If 80% or 70% is likely to come through one material, you first of all ensure that this 70%, you know the in and out first. Then you can then look out for the extra 30%. So is there any specific lead code pipeline? Not pipeline, rather. Is there any specific lead code bank? I know in lead code you have this, you can have okay. I think I'm talking about Akarank now. So I know for Akarank, for example, there can be 30 days of code that will take you from easy to medium and take you to hard. Lead code, I think in lead code is much more diverse. There are different ones, right? So like people can also set up their own lead code pipeline. So what is one lead code part that you think was very, very useful? If you can say it now, we can share in the comments.
Very good question. I think I probably skipped that. Thank you for stopping me there, because beyond the cheat code or whatever, the Bloomberg list and everything, you need to be good at solving these questions generally first. And that should be your priority before even thinking of solving Bloomberg specific questions. And for that one, in terms of material, I cannot say this is one material or this is one part. Well, very good comments just popped up now, and that is NIST code. I used NIST code a lot too. So I would say try and get the fundamentals, because the problem with DSA is that a lot of times people just skip fundamentals. I want to solve questions. You say things like, I want to solve 2 lead code questions daily. You can do that for a year and not be good at lead code. What you will find yourself being good at is the questions that you solved. So before you jump to lead code, try and understand the fundamentals of DSA itself. And in most cases, personally, I prefer books because I don't have money to buy course, right? At that time, I didn't have the money to buy course, so I preferred using books. And there's this what's the name of this book? I'll probably look for
Is it
Cracking.
coding?
Yeah, yeah, I think that one. Yeah, I think that one. Yeah, that one is good.
Like, that's the Bible.
Exactly. So that one would get you up to speed with fundamentals, your graph, your ifs, your queues, your trees, your dynamic programming, and all of that. So that one, no question particularly yet, but you just at least it's like um trying to solve differential equation without knowing simple algebra. So that's the way it is. So and people tend to skip to lead code without even knowing what it does or what by the binary search trees do. So I would say once you get the fundamentals with books, so with books, I said crap away. Yeah. So with books, with videos, you can check on Udemy. If you have money, buy a course. Believe me, they will pay you a lot that will cover for whatever you're spending. So if you think if you think you have to spend, please just get materials with your fund that are very useful. Check reviews, try and pick out the best of them. So once you are up to speed with fundamentals, then you can now start solving lead code questions. And I think the best platform to start is using NeetCode, by somebody dropped. So neetcode.io. Let me just type that. So neetcode.io. So this website is very good. That it has the questions structured in different lead code patterns or lead code like this. Structured in different patterns or different algorithms or different fundamentals. So you could have questions on that graph. So for example, if you have read on graph, you've understood what BFS is, what DFS is, what all these technical stuff is, like theory-wise, then you can now go to the niche code and particularly solve questions under that graph. Do you understand? And then you do the same thing for other patterns, like even though you do for other patterns, basically. Let me not do too much on that. So if you've done all this, then it makes sense to now just search online. It could be Bloomberg, it could be any company. Just search Bank of America common interview questions. You will see a lot of resources that you see a lot of sites that will point you to questions you could solve. Now, most of the time, the best place to see it is Lead Code Premium, but that requires that you pay. But then you can, I think there are just search online. Honestly, I don't really have much I have Let's Go Premium now. I have to beg somebody to give me. So yeah, your network also matters really. Work with people. If you contribute money together, people share the money when somebody gets an offer. So if you contribute money together and get a premium account on Let's Code, that would also help. So you can see directly the questions that they can possibly ask. That one is usually more accurate and more specific to the company. So you can now be solving the questions and yeah, hopefully your luck shines because luck is very important. So, does that answer the question, Martins?
To a reasonable extent, but
Okay.
so what I want you to do is that what I'm trying to do is I need you to tell me some questions. I need you to
Let me see. Well, for Bloomberg, like I would say, I have a list of questions that I
Good.
share to my friends.
Okay.
That I've noticed, people, it comes from there. A lot of people that I've seen, my friends that did interviews, my own, yeah, I've pretty much most of the time I've seen that the questions come from there. And pretty much the list is not any special list because in 2022, I found a similar thing online myself too without having to pay or having to ask any internal questions. So most of these things are actually publicly available if you not look for them.
Okay.
But for the one on Bloomberg, I would share a list of common questions, not to say they would come from there, not to say they would give you, but common questions. And like I said, you can also get these things online if you search very well. But I'll share to Martins maybe after the call.
Yeah. So if you're a participant of this call, as long as you're registered, don't worry. We would share these questions with everyone that participated. in this call. So, and if possible, we can also share the link for all the people that just make sure that you registered for this session. Great. So thank you very much for that.
Yeah.
But before you go, please, before you go, I have one more for the behaviorals. I'm asking because
Oh yeah, yeah. I didn't speak on.
behaviorals now. What are some common
I didn't
questions that you got?
speak on that. I didn't go speak on system design because apart
Oh,
from list
system,
code,
yeah, please.
yeah.
I need you to speak on system design, please, very
Okay.
specifically, because
Okay.
that's where you express yourself the most. Like, okay, how do you do this thing?
Mhm.
So,
Mhm.
can you give us the tea on that?
For that one, then I would say before the interview, obviously you should have done your research like as usual. There are books you can read. Groking, the system design interview. There's another one called System Design Interview Fundamentals by Alex So or something. I think there's about 3 books I read, I went through that made me better at system design.
Please share in the comments the names of these books.
Let me see if I remember everything, but I know there's Groking. The Groking system, I think, yeah. Yeah, that one. Then System Design Interview Fundamentals, I think by Alex Su. And then there's one last one I can't remember now, but hopefully when I remember I'll share with James or Martins. I think that one is probably the best for me. And that one is more interview like based. So after you've so I would just say generally the idea of system design, like I said previously, they will give you a real life question, short description most likely, and then they expect you to come up with a reasonable solution under 30 to 45 minutes. So they're asking you to build an entire setup in an interview, right? So they want to see how you can give the, I would say of minimum bar of solution to the high level problem. And typically when they ask you a question, so let me think of a question. Okay, so you can ask you a question like imagine that we have a set of clients and they want to come to we want to build a product for clients to subscribe to stocks because Bloomberg is heavy on stocks, so exchanges. So let's say we have Nasdaq, Apple stock, and Tesla stock. So let's say you want to build a product or a system that allow clients to come to the system and subscribe to receive notifications when this stock increases or when they decrease. So that is a problem. And it sounds a bit clear, but believe me, you can miss it if you don't ask for that question. So typically when you get a question like that, what you want to do is I don't want to go into details of should I go into details of how to, I don't know, maybe that will be too much for the call, but I'll just give an overview.
Please don't. Nothing is too much here.
Okay, okay, I'm looking at time. Okay,
But you can
I'll just give an overview.
Yeah.
So typically the steps, I mean, you will find this in the books if you go through them in depth. So the steps when you get a question like that would be to, first of all, ask clarifying questions. What kind of clients are you working with? What is their number? Right. Yeah, questions like that. I can't really it's been a while I did STEM design interview. So you ask clarifying questions. Why are you asking the questions? You want to specifically highlight the functional requirements of the application. So what I just said before was a simple sentence, but after back and forth of about 2 to 3 minutes of clarifying, because you don't want to clarify the whole day and not do anything. That's user basic clarification. That would not work. So you want to just clarify for like 2 minutes, and after you clarify, the idea would be that you would translate that single sentence into a list of things you want to achieve from your system. So it can be number one, allow users to subscribe. Number two, allow users to receive notification. Number three, process the information in real time. Number four, the specific notification channel for the user. You can also like clarify that, is it through web app, is it through mails, but most times usually agnostics and just say a system that will notify them. You don't have to go into details. So when you have those functional requirements, then you go to build like a very simple high level like connection of boxes that must solve the problem. Yeah, that's a very, very key thing. The problem must be solved by the by the boxes you introduce. So if you have a server here, a client here, when your client do this, this will happen, then this will happen, then this will get here, and then you receive it, and then you have this and all of those grammar. But the idea is it must make sense and it must work. If you go and introduce all the technology in the world and they don't solve the problem, that's a zero. So come up with the most little, not the most little, but the minimum bar that would solve, that must solve the problem. And then usually after that, then they will pick. Now, from there is this conversation, I would say. Then they will ask you, okay, what do you do here? Why do we have this here? And if you read the book and you practice enough, it should be fine. But I would say it's about communication. For me, that I've seen, the communicating. Literally in my own interview, I was asking, I made it very interactive, that I was saying things like, okay, what do we do here? I didn't say, what do I do here? I was saying things like, what do we do here? Or what do you think of this? Yeah, I think we can do this, but I think we can try this too. But then there are trade-offs, but what do we pick? So these things really wow them and be like, okay, this guy can do well in a day-to-day, engineering, review or design, because these things you will still do them. And I must say that is very important, that don't practice the same design for interview sake alone, because if you do that, when you get to the company, it will show. Because they believe if you can pass the interview, then you should be able to, interact with your fellow team members on typical engineering problems. That is the expectation, right? But if you just crammed, and it's very common. I mean, I did it the last 2 years too. I tried to like cram, okay, how do I design Instagram? How do I design Twitter? Okay, I just do this. So you cram. And then they ask you, you just join. Most times they will know that you're just fitting out things and they will know you're gonna collaborating. So problem solving, communication, collaboration, yep, is the key thing to watch out for in STEM interview. So not to waste our time, HR round. The biggest question is why Bloomberg? You must be able to give a very, very, very detailed response to that question. I didn't give you a detailed response in last 2 years, and I think that's the major reason. No, it's not even I think. I got the feedback last year, January, and that was like the major part of why I didn't get the offer. So they are very heavy on that. So for that one, I would say do your research. Don't just go and pick up what you saw in one site and then just cram it. Do your research very well. Understand what they do. Understand what they do that you think makes sense to you. Understand the impact of what they do. Understand why you want to. Now, let's be honest here. Most of us on the call, including myself, I mean, we want to get to these companies because they pay us, well. Let's be very factual. But even that is fine. That's understandable, right? But in as much as we are trying to do that, let us also find what connects us to the company. So if I want to apply to Bank of America, apart from the fact that they will pay me well and SACPA and everything will go, sort of try to understand what Bank of America, at least even try to know what they do, try to know what the engineering team does, just try and make sense of what they do. So that they ask you, you will not be looking and you're not going to like give something to say. And that's for HR round. I mentioned that's for HR round. The rest of the questions would be around your resume, soft skills, how did you collaborate, or I'm sure you figure that one out during interview, because it's nothing so complicated. It depends on what you have in your resume. So I cannot say for me because it would be different for somebody else. Does that make sense, Martins?
Yeah.
So finally, for the engineering manager round, that I would say too is specific to the person, because I remember I had a friend doing the same interview and the house was different from mine, like almost different. The kind of discussion they had was different from my own discussion. But for me, I would say, or generally, I would say about your resume, about your life as an engineer, right? They want to know, how you've worked technically. They want to know about the decisions you made, technical wise, what you'd have done better, something around that, around that. Yeah, just to speak on what Martin said quickly, like a disclaimer. So I remember 2022, philanthropy was my major part of why Bloomberg. But the truth is, they don't really expect you to mention philanthropy. Now, I'm not saying they don't expect you to, but it's not part of like their checkbox for your response. Because I got that feedback from the I think I got it from the recruiter also, that it is very beautiful. You can add it to your response, like you can make it part of it. That yes, so after you said what Bloomberg does, what the team does, why you like the team technical wise, tell the recruiter themselves what Bloomberg engineering uses in terms of language, how you use it in your experience, and how you think you can get better with it. Things are very, very specific. So after you've now said all these things, you cannot come and say, oh, apart from all this, I also like Bloomberg because of the philanthropy they do. You understand? Because I mean, come from Nigeria and we have less access opportunities, and seeing how Bloomberg, those salary, those connect together. So that was on what Martin's jobs. What was I saying before? I was talking about the Indian manager round. So I was saying it's a discussion round, honestly, and just be free. Don't lie. Yeah, I must say it's it's the truth. This is
Don't
don't
lie.
lie. Don't lie. They'll catch you.
Don't lie. I'll
Don't lie.
I'll
I'm
tell you
sure
everything that is on your resume. You provide evidence for it.
that's something I wanted to say also that if you, because of you want to run from Sapa and you want to get into all these companies, are you going to cook lies in your resume? They will know. I think I've seen somebody. No, I've not seen. I know somebody that his friend got a role at JP Morgan and the offer was cancelled because of background check. Mainly because of background check. He already did interview, already got the offer. I think he already came to London self and offer was cancelled. Yeah, it's funny, but it's sad. But I'm not saying the person lied on the resume. He might have said everything was probably true, right? But there were no strong evidences on the experiences. So anything, yeah, that's very important. We say it's good that we say this now. Even if you have 5 experience, put the ones you can provide evidence for. If it is so that you have, for me, God saved me, honestly. There was an experience that I did not have anything to show for because the guy did not pay me. He run me straight, honestly. Or that's small, that is gone. So I had to, but thank God that there was another one so that I almost did not have any evidence. But what saved me was that the guy sent me money. So on the decision of the transfer, he put the company name there. That was what I used to escape the evidence. I was like, okay, you know what? I have pay slip that the guy paid me, and so that's very important. It's good that we say that. And so the idea is put only what you can talk about in your resume. If it's just 2 things, put it. Don't worry. It's not about the volume of the experience. If it's 2 and it's very quality, and I mean God helps you, you'll be fine. So don't go and put 10 things there that you cannot discuss effectively. So yeah, I think that's pretty much it.
Yeah, thank you. I think we need to stress the fact that don't lie on your resume because or in anything you are saying, because some of these conversations they'll pick them back up. I remember that my previous employer were called during my background check. My employer was called and they were like, "Oh, did this person work with you?" So, and because I'd learned from session like this, and I was like, "Okay, yes, you need to provide very, very important details that they can verify." I was like, "Okay." I reached out to the employer ahead. It's like, fine, these people might call you. I'll even tell you one interesting thing. My secondary school proprietress was contacted because I had my secondary school there on my resume. So that's how far they can go for background check. And they won't do it until after you've gotten the offer. Just when you're about to
That's the
leave.
painful part.
They don't care about how much they spent. They'll let you go easily. So don't lie. So yes, thank you very much. So Kay has shared a lot of resources for us. Your own for those of us that are looking to apply to these roles, let's take advantage of these things. It's mentioned a couple of books, Grokking the System Design Interview Fundamentals, and ensuring that you go through this thing. And also Google is your friend. Bloomberg Lead Code DSA questions. check it, you find it. But one thing I like that you stressed is it's not just about knowing how to answer it. Like in university, they will say la cram la pour. It's not la cram la pour this time around. They will see through the smoke. So ensure that you understand it, right? Because in the end, when you get into the firm, these are the things you'll be doing on a day-to-day basis, right? DSC aside, but things like system design, you definitely encounter that. Bloomberg is a technology company as much as the financial solutions provider is a technology company. So it's very, very important. That's the Bloomberg alone. But like every one of these global firms, technology is at the core of whatever they do. So ensure that you build up yourself, not just to answer interview question, but that you understand it very well. So thank you very much, Damilola. Thank you. I appreciate. So now we are just going to move ahead to the fair day of Valentine. So just share with us some of the things that some questions that you got. If you can list them out, I appreciate during the process of your interview.
Yeah, so for me, from the interview stage, like I mentioned earlier, they will ask you things like technologies advancing, what are the new stuffs you've learned. They'll ask you about the time you've had to, like, these are situational based first, situational judgment based. They'll ask you about the time you've worked with the team, how you were able to achieve what you did achieve. They'll also ask you about the time being honest and truthful paid. They'll ask you why Bank of America. So it might not be direct, but they'll just ask you like why you want to intern with them and all of them. So you need to like Abigail mentioned. I also did download Bank of America's annual reports. You need to like understand what they do. Bank of America is big on responsible growth. So you need to like understand it's like know those four tenets of always winning no matter what the buyer what the market is saying, and just know those things, be able to like it shows that like you're really interested in what you're doing. Understand that technology is also a big part, as much as a bank, technology is just a big part of the bank. Like there was a common statement I normally tell my recruiters, I normally tell my interviewers. One of them is this statement Bramonian made, that Bank of America is a bank that is wrapped around technology. So things like that, you need to know statements that like and stuffs that they do that shows that this particular bank, this industry I want to work with, this organization I'm choosing to work with, I'm choosing to intern with, is big on technology too. So do your research about the bank so you can floor most of those questions, because as important as the technical and other questions are, why you want to work with them is very, very key, is very, very vital. Yeah, so there is also the part on Bank of America's technical part is not DSA per se, but it goes from like basic to medium to like difficult. So in the beginning, they might be asking you things like, if it's Python, what list comprehension is. So they want to see what you understand about list comprehension. Then for some people, they move to SQL. So when you get to SQL, they can start asking you things like join, things like aggregates, things like pivots. So you need to understand most of these things. They might look like, okay, you are not actually doing it, but you really need to understand what they are being used for. So you need to, because most of these things you might eventually use them when you work with them and all of that. So you need to understand all of these SQL functionalities, the basic query ones, the ones to perform transactions, every single thing you'll be using. They'll ask you questions on things like that. So you need to understand, okay, why a left join, why a normal inner join, what's the difference between a right join and a left join. So you need to understand in details how everything works together. Why are you pivoting a table? What is the essence of aggregation? What is the essence of concatenation? Most of all these things and their effects. What if you are using with column to rename something? Is it optimizing what you are doing? So like you need to understand why everything is like the reason behind everything you are explaining and all of that. So they know that okay, beyond just you saying select where this is what we used to query this. Why there are other ways to do this thing? Why will you do it this way rather than this? So you need to understand all of that. So in the coding, they'll start from the most basic, like list comprehension. They take it higher, higher, higher. For me, they had to like project a number of questions, like questions, more like you're solving problems. So they'll give you like real problems, give you array problems, like, okay, how do you do this? How do you do this to get this particular result? So they might show you the end results. Then you now have to explain how you are going to achieve it. So you need to understand array methods like split, reverse, reduce, map, all of these things, because you'll be needing them. They'll ask you, okay, why are you doing this like this? Rather than using a for each, rather than using a for loop, why are you doing, why are you using a map? Rather than doing this, why are you using this? What's the difference between this? Does map mutate the original array you have or the original list you have? So stuffs like that, you need to understand why you are doing everything. So they take it from the most basic to more difficult parts. And the more difficult part is, for me then, was more of giving you problems and you solving all of those problems. So you just have to understand how you are solving most of those problems. Like I said, unluckily for me, I'm not big on Python, and my interview was in Python, but God came through and I was able to
Yeah, you're not
scale
big
through.
on Python.
Yeah, but with time, I've had to learn. Even there, I used Scala. Scala was not on my CV, but I've had to learn Scala during the internship, and I used Scala. So another thing they want to see in all of these processes, how adaptable you are. Like, can you really learn stuffs beyond just yeah, because if you understand any programming language, if you have to solve a problem in a different programming language, if you really understand the concept of programming, like Dami emphasized, the fundamentals, then you should be able to pick up any programming language to solve whatsoever problem you are facing. Sometimes the major differences between these things are syntax, and yes, some might be object oriented, but in the long run, is more of syntax. How the import in this place is different. This one is purely functional. But eventually, what you are doing is you are declaring variables. You are using variables to solve problem. You are thinking of the time and space complexity of whatever you are doing. So you need to understand those fundamentals properly, so you don't just write anyhow code, because when you start working, they are reviewing everything you are pushing. If you are working on something real, they're going to review the code. So if you are doing something that is just you are just doing vibes and everything to just solve a particular problem, I mean, you would have to like do it over and over again. So you still cast yourself eventually if you are just trying to like maneuver stuff. So understand why you are doing stuff. If not, it might look like, okay, they are not doing DSA, I should be able to beat this interview easily. But it's more than that. You have to understand the language you are explaining. You have to understand why you have to do this way and why you're not doing it this way. Also on your presentation to BOFA, I think the question then was a project you've worked on recently. Explain it. So pick a project. I'm still the technology lead in ASN. So ASN was the project I used for mine. So pick a project that actually has real world impacts. Don't just pick anyhow projects. Pick a project that you can describe. ASN is something you can explain without even having to show them what you're doing for ASN. So pick a project that you can. I mean, the HR was so, she really loved what I was explaining. She was like, oh, my daughter is in high school in the UK. I need opportunities like this. We don't have systems like this over here that will help students, all of those stuff. So you just have to pick a project that sells what you are doing. So beyond just the technical gibberish that you're doing, because I spent more time actually explaining what ASN does than the technology I used in building ASN websites. So pick a real world project that actually has impact and then explain it. So if you get to that assessment center, pick a real world project for whatever they're asking you to do. It can be something in school. It can be something that doesn't look so big, but is it solving a problem? How is it solving that problem? Then you can now go to, okay, I use this. So when you're explaining that, like when I was explaining building ASN website, I had to explain to them that, okay, we have a blog on ASN and we used Firebase. Things like, okay, why Firebase? Yeah, for ASN, when we are starting, we're also thinking about costs. Okay, Firebase has storage device. You don't have to start opening Cloudinary or trying to like get S3 buckets to do stuff. You need to understand, explain why you are using every single thing. Okay, why Next.js for SEO optimization? For Next.js, when you search about a particular blog, you are getting this result. So in your presentation, to explain the problem you are solving more, then go into the technical details of how you solve that problem, then explain the reason why you are using every tools you are using to solve that particular problem. So they know that you really understand what you are doing. You really contributed to that project, because some people can just take stuff that can be a class project and they didn't contribute so much. You should be able to defend everything you are putting in your interview process. You should be able to defend every single thing. So just practice common situational judgment questions like, your manager is not around, you have a deadline to submit a task to him by 5 p.m. close of work. You have an associate on the team. The associate is also giving you a work to like assist him with. Meanwhile, your manager is, all of those all of those complex stuff. So they just want to see how you navigate stuff like that. So you need to really, really like think out of the box. Okay, manager is not around. This person is giving me work. So my manager is expecting this feedback by 5 p.m. The associate also wants me to. The associate is telling me that they have to give this thing to a client by this same time. Do you get? So those questions are not always like very easy questions they're always like very, very tricky. So they want to see how you think. They want to see how you take initiative too. They can ask you stuff like, your manager gives you a tax. Maybe your manager doesn't know so much about what the tax is, and she made an assumption when giving you the tax. And when you started the tax, you discovered that the tax consists of some other important things that if you don't do, will not make the tax totally completed. Meanwhile, what your manager asked you to do might just be something minute. So in things like that, they want to see if you take initiative. Maybe you just do the whole stuff and deliver what is going to make the project perfectly done to your manager, or you just do what they ask you to do. You get stuff. So it might look like setup, that I'm just doing what they ask me to do. Sometimes they want you to take initiative. So you always need to like read the room and understand why they're asking you a particular question. So for both, that's an overall of how their questions are always like, no DSA. For Goldman, you do DSA and other, but for BOFA, it was majorly your language, your programming language, from simple to technical. Then for situational judgment, to different scenarios, a lot of scenarios actually. Situational judgment was, I think, almost 40 minutes or 30 minutes. I can't remember. So they will just be bombarding you with different questions. These ones will say, and sometimes to try and own the interview, like Damilola said, try and own the interview is very, very important. Make sure you control the narrative. Make sure you're able to like this. They have questions they prepared for you, but you can actually choose the direction of how the next questions will go if you are really, really good at what you're saying. So when you start your situational judgments too, you can take, like with the way you answer the last question, they might even pick the next question from what you're asking if they find your interview very conversational. So try and own the interview in every single interview, from the technical to the presentation. Own it. Make sure you are the one controlling the narrative. I mean, take them away from everything they are planning to do. You might even like be so good. I remember the presentation was, the lady was enjoying it so much. She was just like, oh, I just have to go, all of those stuff. So on the interview, make it conversational. They would already start knowing that, okay, this is someone I want to work to and I want to work with and all of that. So yeah, that's what I would say concerning the questions I was asked. I can remember currently.
Thank you very much. You are giving us the tea that we are here for. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. So for those that are on the call, please pay attention to a lot of the things he has mentioned. And this also ties back to the thing and Kuye has already emphasized, right? Communication is important. From all the things I've been hearing is communication is very, very important. So there's no DSA, don't rejoice yet. And you need to understand the foundation of whatever programming language, or not just programming language in itself. You need to understand the fundamentals of programming in itself. So thank you very much for that. And finally, we would have Abigail. Like I know this process is quite similar to Valentine, but if there's anything different that you notice that you would like to share with us, would appreciate that. Hello, Abigail, can you hear me?
Hello.
Yes, did you get my question?
Sorry. Can you please ask your question again?
No. I just wanted you to touch on some of the questions that you got during your interview process. Can you hear me?
Because I think that, yes. Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Yeah. I'll talk about the live interview part. So the first one, the presentation. I think for my presentation, I made sure to explain the problem and then the solution. I also explained the technological stack I use, and most important,
Hello.
Can you hear Abigail?
No, I can't hear again.
Abigail, we can't seem to hear you. Are you there? I think our network is probably having some issues. Abigail, are you there?
I explained. Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, can you start again? We stopped hearing you at the point you said technological stacks that you use or something.
Oh, okay. I was saying that the technological stack that I use, I explained why I used that particular tool. So if I use Python, if I use Firebase, I explained why. I explained the reason why I chose those particular technologies. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So, hello, give me a sec.
We can hear you. We can still hear you.
So, sorry, I just had some issues. And apart from the technological stack, the questions that they asked me the impact of my system. So the system that I explained was basically a social media platform that was used in my school. So I explained the impact of that and how engaging and make the whole student community. So they were basically very interested in like what you did, what's the relevance of it. Do you understand? It's not just about talking about the technologies you use and blah blah blah. You have to explain the impact and how it helped people, how people benefited from your solution. So that was it for the presentation part. The next part was the competency part, and they asked why am I interested in Bank of America and also that particular division. So then again, you one thing I also learned from that is that you have to be real, like, because it's very obvious if somebody is being fake or trying to tell somebody what they want to hear. You have to be really real, do your research, and also assessing whether the place is a good place for you to work. Because most of the time, what I've realized is that we Africans, we tend to think that these opportunities we get it by luck or something. But if they don't find value in you, they wouldn't just hire you, fly you all over, and then for you to come and work. So if you get into these roles, it's because you are supposed to be there. There's some value that you can add. So they also want to see how confident you are. As Valentine said, you have to drive the interview. It shouldn't just be like they ask you a question, you answer. It has to flow smoothly. Yeah, that's one thing I also learned. And also the last interview was the technological interview. They asked me basic questions like what's the difference between a list and a tuple. Um, they asked uh, they asked me questions about. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, they asked me questions about string slices and just basic Python concepts. The technological part was very, very basic. So just know your basic things. And you also get to choose the programming language that you want. And more importantly, I think for the technological part, it matters more of the technical concepts you know, like the fundamentals. And with that, any programming language, like it's basically the same fundamentals that cuts across. So you just have to know the fundamentals of computer science. And sometimes they also ask me some questions about database, what is normalization. Yeah, and one thing about them too is that they repeat the questions a lot because almost all the questions I got, a friend of mine told me that they asked him in his interview. So it's also good to ask people that have interned there. And as we are saying, the kind of questions that they gave us, it's good to just note them down because they are going to be very repetitive. Yeah, I think that's it for me.
Thank you. Thank you very much. No, thank you very much. So pay attention. The resources are there online. Just ensure that you go ahead and do the work and you can get all this information, right? But it's very, very important that, again, you learn how to communicate. So thank you very much to our speakers. Actually, our time is fast spent now, right? We've heard a lot of insights today. We've shared the resources, we've shared book, website, um, cheat codes, inclusive too today. We've shared all of this information. So it's imperative that for participants of this call that are interested in pursuing these opportunities, that you start to research about it. Okay, Bank of America, is the internship opportunity open? Can I start researching about this opportunity? Bloomberg, is the internship opportunity open? And like that for different companies. So just ensure that you go ahead, you do the extra mile, and you do the work. So now we'll be moving over to Q&A. I would have loved to ask one more question to our speakers, but I'd like to create more room for questions and answers. So we are going to be taking a maximum of 5 questions. So if you just want to ask a question, please signify by raising up your hand virtually. Yes, so would call out that another. So yeah, I'll hand over now to James to handle the question and answer.
Okay, so thank you very much, Martins. Thank you very much, our speaker. It was quite exhaustive to hear from them. So I think we have exactly 5 people, and I'll take it in the order that I can see them. So I'm seeing Abd Kudus Badamosi. Sorry if I mispronounce it. You can unmute yourself.
Okay. Good evening, everyone.
Yeah, good evening.
Okay. My name is Abdul Kudus Daramasi. So, um, uh, I've been on. I didn't start initially. I came late to the meeting, so I don't know. Maybe this question have been answered before, but let me just ask it one more time. So, these internship opportunities, are they solely for software engineers? What I mean by that is that, okay, someone that is learning blockchain technology now, something like that, are there opportunities for the person? Also, um someone is learning front-end development now, because I know that there's a distinction between front-end development and software engineering. People make distinctions that, okay, maybe front-end engineering is not the same, or software engineering is more complex than front-end engineering. So someone that is like a front-end developer now, does he have those kind of opportunity, or he has to learn all these CS computer science concepts before you could apply for this kind of internships? Thank you very much.
Okay, so before I call on one of the people to answer on the first question, I think we have like a lineup of like sessions that we have central to other areas. Yesterday we had investment banking. Next week we're going to have in operations, compliance, payments, markets, couple of stuffs like that. So you can stay glued and kind of like get to see other areas of application. So central to tech, there's still like products line, which I don't think these guys would be able to talk about, but I'll just let probably Valentine take turn on probably clarifying front end and back end and people that do basically middleware stuff and all those kind of stuff, probably from his own experience. Then Dami can also take it on that.
Yeah, so overall, for people that do blockchain and front end, back end, whatsoever, everything still fall under software development. Yeah, blockchain might look like you are writing, in case of maybe you're working with Ethereum and all of that, you're writing Solidity and the likes. But the end goal of a software is basically you're building a software that solves a solution. You're building something, you're building a product that solves solution with a programming language. So be it blockchain, be it front end, be it back end, one of the most important things you're expected to know when you are solving any problem, even if it looks like in React you're not doing like Dami said, you're not using so much of all of these DSA stuffs you are learning, but it's the experience that you understand every single thing you're doing. Because even in front end, you have to map sometimes, you have to do some loops. There are a lot of logics. Like when you're working with a cat now, you need to understand how to undo various stuffs. Like if you are doing a drag and drop stuff, there is a lot to just you writing, you building UIs. There's a lot of functionalities too on the front end. So most times what you're doing is still software engineering basically. So what they want to see from you is, yeah, like my experience now majorly with all of these firms, we are majorly front end experiences. I mean, yeah, with money there was a bit of back end too, but what I wrote there I think was front end engineer. With Tribe One, it was front end too. So nobody is like looking that okay, this person does just front ended. When you now start the internship, don't think they'll just put in a front end team. What they want from you is to be able to build software. So if you're building the software with um, pure SQL, if it's pure SQL, you'll be writing without even you using writing APIs and all of the likes. Things might not be exactly how you pan it out in your head. So that's why they want to like make sure you understand the fundamentals. You are big on the fundamentals. So if you have blockchain experience, try and pick a language in which you are good at the fundamentals. You can solve problems in that language. If it's front end, know JavaScript properly, explain JavaScript properly. But I would still advise you brush up your, what's it called, your Python and also Java. Most of these languages are what the banks are big on. I mean, when you were applying, sometimes you see it there. We need Java, C++, Python. You would see their requirements there. So let's not try to like be like these languages are out of work. This is what the bank wants to use. So you should have an understanding of how those languages work. So that's what I would just advise. For DB now is technology, data, and innovation. So it's still technology. What you are building is you are building a solution with programming languages. So just applying different names for different of the for most of these stuffs, but it's not limited to back end, front end. It's just you solving a problem with programming languages. That's what I'll call it.
Interesting. Thank you very much, Valentine. So I think because we still have other questions, I personally see to like Valentine process. I think he was writing Scala, doing a lot of Spark data processing on distributed systems as a software engineer. Imagine like that was more like more data engineering kind of stuff. And he was also building UIs, doing a lot of TypeScript stuff on his internship. And it was quite like interesting, but you just have to be like a sponge, right? And this is what I tell people, right? We are still young to start saying, this is exactly what I want to do, right? It was like some people were doing computer science and it was heavily invested in like analog, and they were graduating and digital took over. Imagine you were in school at that particular point. Everything you were taught was analog. Then you graduated and everything became digital. Like if you do not understand the fundamentals, there's no way you are going to survive. So there's no such thing as, oh, I'm just like a blockchain developer. When it comes to you starting out your career, when you want to access this global opportunity, they might have like rooms for that, but you don't get to put yourself in those places at the start of your career. You just have to understand the fundamentals of computer science and actually use that to get what you want in these particular companies. So probably you could connect with these people, ask more clarifying questions from them on a personal basis on LinkedIn and all that. So let me pick somebody else and see. So I have Elijah Obisheson. Elijah Obisheson. Can you unmute yourself and ask your question? Let's make it snappy, please. Go straight to the question. Okay, I think he dropped his hand. You're trying to unmute yourself. We can't hear you if you're speaking. So because of our time, I'm going to take somebody else. That's Adedapo. Adeyemi, can you unmute yourself and speak?
All right. Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you clearly.
All right. I wanted to confirm about something. So as
Okay.
regards, all right, preparation, I understand, okay, yes, you have to prepare. But some of these companies, we are in Nigeria. So I'm like, are there considerations for like travel? And so it's not like remote. Like we're going to like, that is majorly on site. So are there considerations for like travel and like accommodation when you get there? Or you have to sort that out yourself? Or is it that some companies have, while some don't have? Like, I want to get like, are there considerations for travel and accommodation?
I think I will let Abigail, and in just 1 minute, probably Dami. Dami, you can go first on Bloomberg's plan for this, and Abigail can also go second.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on the company, right? So I would say it's a general question, and for the company you want to go into, just check first. I mean, for JP Morgan, I don't think they do. What they do is to pay you after you get there. For Bloomberg, they will take care of everything. I mean, Bloomberg even gives their full-time engineer special treats. You may fly them in first class, put them in one apartment for like 1 month for free, and then you get some relocation fund like as an extra again. That's for Bloomberg. Yeah, but yeah, that's for Bloomberg to take care of everything for you. And most company do. Most Goldman Sachs does the same thing. So Meta does the same thing. Yeah. Only JP Morgan, from what I've seen so far, would not sponsor your travel. But when you find your way around traveling, when you get there, they will pay you what you spent for traveling.
Also,
Okay.
also to clarify, like these rules, they offer visa sponsorship. There are rules that offer visa sponsorship, meaning that they would assist you, even for JP Morgan, for example, they would assist you in securing a visa because beyond just jumping on the flight, you need a visa to come to the countries, right? So they would assist you with getting your visa. I think that's what most of them offer. But just to be very, very careful, I need to highlight this. When you're applying for roles at this firm, they have rules across different locations. So apply to the rules, read the description carefully. For roles that offer sponsorship, they would expressly put it there that we offer sponsorship for this role. If you're applying to Bank of America, you apply to the US office, for example, no one is going to give you sponsorship because no one is sponsoring you visas to the United States. So check, read the description very well. Once you see we offer visa sponsorship for this role, then you can start applying. But if you don't see it, you know what to do. Don't
Yeah.
bother.
Yeah, I want Abigail to go from the Bank of America perspective also. Yeah, Abigail, are you there?
Yes, please. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you perfectly.
Yes. So Bank of America takes care of your visa process, your
Are you there?
internship. Oh gosh. Hello, can you hear me?
Your visa process, they take care of that. You can continue from there.
Yeah, take care of your visa process. They book flights for you. For an internship, they will book a return flight for you. And but there's been some changes to what happened this year. So the previous years they cater for your accommodation for your internship, right? For African students. But then
Mhm.
from this year onwards, you have to take care of that yourself.
Mhm.
And yes, but then it's not very difficult because they typically you receive your first pay and your relocation allowance like 5 days after you start. So basically during orientation week. So you can always figure out something. And
Oh,
for full time, yeah, I think it's the same thing. They just give you a place for about 2 weeks just for you to settle, and then you continue life from there. But then you shouldn't worry about visa processes. It's very easy actually. They just tell you the specific documents they need you to submit, and then that's it. They'll book the flights for you and everything.
okay, cool. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
So while I interned at Bank of America, it was like we had like a four-star hotel. We had our economy flight booked. We had like everything sorted for like throughout our internship. But I think it's been changing. That was why I wanted her to speak to that. So when I worked at DB, it was like there wasn't like they did the visa process, but you have to book your flight by yourself and you get reimbursed probably towards the end of your internship. But the thing is that like the most important thing is that your visa is being sponsored, right? And every cost of like flights they get to pay you back, but accommodation might not be really guaranteed in terms of like it differs from company to company. Some of these companies are changing their policy because they don't want to be doing something like nepotism towards a particular region and all those kind of stuff. So just worry about like sponsorship for visa rather than worrying about flight because probably your first salary could probably buy the ticket like twice or thrice or something. You understand what I'm saying? So that's like the important thing. So like worry more about like the visa sponsorship. And I would say basically focus on the EMEA region, the likes of EMEA application. They tend to be more like sponsorship in that area than the United States and all other kind of like regions. Yeah, so let's thank you guys. Thank you, Abigail. Thank you, Dami and Valentine. So let's go to the next person. Think Timi Tokwe, Aye Bogon. Yeah, sorry. Timi Tokwe, you can have a go.
Hi, good
Good evening. Can you hear
Yeah,
me?
perfect. We
Good
can hear you.
evening. All right. So thank you for putting this together and for everybody that spoke so far. So I just wanted to confirm, or no, just wanted to ask basically for the resumes where we're to put metrics in our bullet. So how do we deduce these metrics that it's not looking sketchy or shady in a way that we can actually defend those metrics are put in there in case it comes up in like an interview and it's not looking like you're just cooking up stuff and just putting in.
Okay, great. So, Dami, can you have a go on that? I think you mentioned something like
Why am I the one having a go?
that. Yeah, you could just give it a
Yeah,
yeah, it's not
yeah.
yeah.
I think I was one that mentioned it. Yeah, I mean, there's a balance to it. You don't want to drop 90% of. You don't want to drop 90% metric or 101% in your resume. Of course, that'll be sketchy. I think it's intuitive, right? And I would say it starts from the fact that everything you do, try to understand the outcome of whatever you did in the company. So if you don't know the outcome, I would say avoid using a metric and use words that are metric based, like optimization. Like, yeah, maybe not specific metric, but I'll say for metrics particularly, it's intuition. Like, imagine you worked on something and there was like a noticeable difference between or between how it was before and how it is now. Roughly, you can say 40%. I mean, the truth is, in most cases, you will not have a actual figure. You have to deduce it based on what you did and based on the outcome. So, for example, now my current resume, I added something that I did in Bloomberg, and I added 90. I think I added 80% of. I added 80% as a metric for what I did, and I was pretty much sure that I was more than that because what I did was so significant that it's what's it called? Eliminated a lot of things from our code base, sort of. And honestly, that could count as 100%. But I said, okay, no, that might be too, sketchy. I used 80%, even though I don't have a way to say, oh, I did some maths and I got 80 over 100. That would not happen in most cases. So it's intuition, right? If you worked on something and it was a slight difference, just say 20%. Don't form it. Yeah, don't form it. The higher it is, the more sketchy it is. But if it's high and you can prove it, why not? That's beautiful. But if you're uncertain, just work with low figures. What they are not after you. They know the truth is, I must say this, in real life systems, you can barely optimize things at a great extent, right?
Yeah.
If you work in these companies, in most cases, what they have is already working. And what you're having is just like a little optimization. So something around 20 to 30 to 40 to 50 to 60% should work based on intuition and what you did. So I don't know if that answers the question for Tope.
Yeah, that makes sense. Thank you very much, Dami. I would probably just say I wanted you guys to have a go. I'll probably just say read a little bit about like SLIs and SLOs. So SLIs are like service level indicators and service level objectives. So when you work in a company as a technical person, always like you hear Dami saying something like him actually like taking inventory of what he's currently doing in this experience and not waiting for like after he finishes his program with Bloomberg, then you now start thinking, what did I actually do? What was the effect? So it's like most of the tasks that you do have like indicators and metrics that they use to kind of like look at them. For startup is a little bit sketchy, right? Because everybody's just pushing things and it's like it's just like a waterfall kind of stuff, but you can objectively say that, oh, this stuff is like this. And on my resume, for instance, I think the highest I have is like 35% or something, and which is fair. And you can always find your way around words to kind of like prove some of this stuff, even if most times there will be more than 30%, probably 50%, 60%. But like it's better to be conservative rather than like very optimistic about like the entire thing. So, but read about reliability engineering, SRE concepts when you develop stuff and try to like get insight around the indicators and the objectives and use that to craft like a percentage when you're actually like documenting your resume. I think it works really well that way. Yeah. I hope that helps, Temitope.
Yes, definitely, it does help. Thank you so much. That's giving me a lot of insight into how to go about this.
Okay, cool, cool. Thank you. So I think we have Waris. I mean, yeah, you can have a go at the mic.
Okay. One.
Hello, are you there? We can't hear you if you're speaking. You're muted. So I think someone was trying to ask a question. Elijah, do you still have a question?
Can you hear me now?
Oh, great. Okay, go for it.
Okay, so I have a question here basically. So I've been, applying to this. Okay, I'm about to start applying to this summer internship here. But now the issue is most of these companies are looking for students. So the issue now is I'm still a student technically, yeah, but I've not graduated. I just wrote my last paper or my final year exam, but I've not graduated. So I'm thinking about what I should do about the graduation date. How do I proceed? Proceed, yeah, with the graduation date. Because they are looking for students that are graduating, let's say like next year, 2025 or 2026. So how do I proceed or how do I handle the issue with the graduation date now? Because technically I'm still a student. I've not graduated yet. So how do I handle that?
Yeah, technically, to be fair, someone asked me this question a few days ago, and I was just like, if you haven't convocated, you haven't graduated. So just put your expected graduation date as your expected convocation date, basically, because you don't have the certificate yet, to be fair. So that's one thing. And some of these experiences, you can probably like go for like the grad program, which is like, I think for Bloomberg they have something like that. I know people that didn't do like any summer internship and they got like direct offer. One of my friend that we worked together at Bloomberg, he was on this call last year. You can check it on our YouTube. He got a direct offer to Bloomberg in New York because he has like work permit in New York also. He's a Ghanaian and he was able to kind of like do that transition easily, basically. So you can probably just focus on applying for grad programs rather than internships. Or if you are going to apply for internships, just use your convocation date and try as much as possible to push your application in before that particular time. I hope that helps.
Yeah, it does. It does. Thank you so much. Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
let's take Elijah and we'll call it a night. Yeah, Elijah, if your mic is good now, please. Oh, okay. Sorry. I don't think we can hear you. So we're really sorry. And yeah, so Martins, any other thing?
Quick one. Sorry, James. There's a question that popped up in the chat, so also you quickly answer it.
Go for it, Danny.
Yeah. So Bezen asked me what inspired me to apply for the internship. What do I hope to achieve during my time there? So let me just give like the answer, generally. So in terms of inspiration, I would say it's my friends. So in 2022, two girls in my class got my SAC internship. And that was how I knew it was possible to even do it in the first place. So I would say that's where the inspiration came from majorly. And what I want to achieve, like what everybody wants to achieve, I guess, yeah, just learn as much as I can, learn as much as I can learn, grow. Network, because for Bloomberg, it's big on network. There's a lot of Nigerians there, so you really feel like at home if you get to work in Bloomberg. I mean, that applies to a lot of other companies too. So learn, grow, network, and have fun. Yeah, life is not too hard. That you just want to be coding. So if you get the offer, it's okay to have fun alongside. So I think that answers the question for Andre Damola.
Martins, over to you.
Yeah, thank you very much for that. Yeah, so like Damia said, is enjoying his internship, having fun, but also learning a lot. Yes, so this is where we'll draw the curtains for today. Thank you very much, everyone, for tuning in. Special appreciation to our speakers for taking our time on a busy Sunday evening. I say busy on a Sunday evening because we have work tomorrow morning. So I understand the commitment that comes with that. Thank you so much for that. And also, please, on YouTube, please ensure that you subscribe to our YouTube.
Martins, we've got like, so we have like 900, close on 1,000 registration, right? And we have kind of like 162 people on our YouTube. Like, that's not fair. That's not fair at all.
That's not fair, please. And so as a task that I'm giving everyone here, please let's go to the YouTube channel. Go to the YouTube channel, African Student Network. James has shared it in the chat. Ensure that you connect with us, follow us across social media. But importantly, our YouTube, and ensure that you subscribe because there's a lot of amazing content that we'll be pushing out, and you don't want to miss out on all these kind of things. So also these kind of things, Damilola was mentioning that he saw his friends do it and he believed that if they can do it, I can do it. I'll tell you a bit about it. I did a summer internship in 2022. In 2023, we did an intern insight series also. And some people that were on the call actually got opportunities, right? And some people that were not on the call actually shared it with their friend. I know someone that told me, I was like, oh, I got this information, and I didn't even know the person at all. So the thing is that you never know, right? You never know. And James was just speaking about the fact that someone was on the call and the person got an opportunity. So share with your friends. Don't keep it to yourself, right? Share with your friends, share with your enemies. Let everyone grow together. So please ensure that you follow us on YouTube, African Student Network. James has shared the link in the chat. So thank you once again, everyone, and do have a lovely evening for the rest of the day. And we'll see you next week. Thank
Thank
you.
you, guys. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye. Thank you.